Hey, this is Debbie with Cultural Alignment Solutions, and welcome to the Expansion Factor, where we dive deep and talk to people about how they have expanded in their life, their leadership, and in love, whichever topic they want to talk about. I am super excited for our guest today. It's Dave, and it's tell me your last name, Radlo. Is that how we say it?
Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. I am super excited for Dave. I have done some digging into his material, and I'm going to let Dave tell you everything. But let me give you a couple aspects about Dave. He is an accomplished CEO. He is internationally recognized as an expert in sustainable leadership, growth, and innovation. And here's the thing, he's a Forbes book podcaster, which Dave, I'm sure we'll get into that. But he's not a one, he's a two-time best-selling author. And I know we're going to talk about those books. I will have everything for you in the links to be able to get a hold of Dave. The work he has done is expansive. And so as we jump in, Dave, I want you to give us one word that describes your expansion in this lifetime.
Interesting.
Is that the word, interesting?
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So I want you to take us back as we get going. Take us back to a defining moment for you when you realized that you needed to expand in your life. You realized, all right, this is a change moment for me. Take us back to that and tell us about you in that story.
I've really had a great a background, and I just happened to be sitting there one day and be reading a book, Tom Peters, and it said, "Create your new pie." Okay, so and that's summed out in terms of interesting is concerned. I started in Citicorp Express Money, and it turned into Precursor, turned into MoneyGram, and that just grew. And that's after being in high school and college. I ran for state representative when I was a senior in college. And then from Citicorp, we started up with Chase credit cards. We moved from Chase credit cards. I took some shares and started something called biotech business called FICAM that was later sold to Waters, and then also a company called Eggland's Best, along with a lot of partners. And we created, and I was like, we all had different talents, so to speak. Mine was just on the creation side, on new product development. It's all laid out in my books, Cartel Disruption and Secret Stories. But and then we created a multi-billion-dollar category. We created cage-free, free-range, nutritional, enhanced, organic, and then the pasture stuff, and then the free-range stuff, and then all the extra cherry and whipped cream stuff in terms of hard-boiled eggs in the bag, and then liquid eggs, and then 18
Wow.
packs, 2 packs, this pack, that pack, other pack, 6 pack, plastic, foam, all sorts of paper with overlays. I mean, it's a great, exciting journey. And I ended up selling the business to Land O'Lakes in 2013. Along the journey, I did business and broke in with Fidel Castro. And that was really exciting because we were able to break into a new market. And I just happened to have a lot of contacts in the Congress and also the Senate. And I was president of New England Brown Egg Council. And in a previous lifetime, I worked for the White House Chief of Staff. So next thing I know, I was doing backchannel diplomacy between the White House and Fidel Castro. And we ended up getting U.S. residents freed that were held prisoner. And to me, it was
Wow.
when you look back on things, I say, gee, that was hard. Why was it hard? It was hard because everybody knew there was CEI spies or informants, and it was just and the Bush administration wasn't doing us any favors to get them released with the policy. But the bottom line is, with the relationship that I had, we were able to just calm things down, and we used to get them out. And also we had a lot of discussion on expanding trade. Any event, after selling my businesses, I ended up in the private equity world. And I split my time between private equity and nonprofit. And so I've done private equity, venture, Currently, I'm a partner in a real estate venture firm that's out in LA, and we're doing a lot of great work when it comes to getting people housing for the fires. In addition to that, we started up, and I was seed founder of Team Impact that just took off with Jay Callanan and Danny Kraft. I've done a lot of work at Tufts University, vet school, nutrition school, entrepreneurship school, and also anchored in athletics and fraternity and helping people find out what they don't want to do and then get jobs. And so that's some of the stuff. And I was also on the board of the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and I'm excited about that with Chris Nowinski because you go to davidradlo.com, you can look at the podcast on Chris Nowinski, but they have done a tremendous job. And a lot of it is everybody looks at CTE on diagnosing CET, but also helping people with all sorts of ailments that have post-concussive syndrome, people that are on the edge of the earth. And thank God they reach out and they get them off the railroad tracks into health and wellness programs because there's a lot of time, talents, money, and research that has been spent on that. And my expertise is yes, expansion, new product development, and using people, process, and strategy in order to get it there. And I just wanted to sum with one thing is that if you take a look at cartel disruption, regardless of what you do, okay, I really would look at chapter 2, which is having to do with selling stuff, or for that matter, pitching, because the way we sell is not the way we receive. And if it's not dangerous, people will ignore it. If it's not new and exciting, people will ignore it. If it's not, even if it's new, you got to summarize it quickly or they'll lose interest. And don't send anything up to the neocortex that you don't have to. So in any event, to give you an example, how we did that is what I did it with 14-year-olds. I wanted to test this, not just with, venture guys and PE guys. I tested it on 14-year-olds at Title I Nashua South High School that entered the Conrad Challenge with their invention that put out wildfires with magnetic sound waves. And they went down and they used these methods, and the panel was so thrilled. They ended up winning the Conrad Challenge, got college scholarships, and then they ended up speaking at the UN. It was 14-year-olds, literally. The president of Match.com threw his card on the table after their presentation. It was so compelling and said, I'll give you $500,000 to start this up, right? So, I mean, it really, there are ways in which you can sell your ideas that, regardless of what they are, that can really make a difference. I've been really, really blessed to live a tremendous, interesting life. I've done a lot of interesting things and continue to do so. And there's such an opportunity to give back your time, talents, and money wherever you are to really help people get to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And we breathe. You are a walking example of all of that, right? Obviously, you know how to do this. You know how to pitch, you know how to get out there, you know how to stay in it. I kind of want to hold up there for a moment, right? If you were to give advice to somebody, yes, they can go to chapter 2. We're going to say, go get the book and all of that. But right now, someone is listening going, Dave, tell me more. What would be some top things you would tell them right now when it comes to that, the pitching piece of, is it a product or is it their life, right?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, you're dealing with your life, you're dealing with business problem or whatever you have.
Right.
It's really, if you break it down to similar things, right? Because you
Right.
have leadership, you have organization, it's people, process, strategy. What do you mean process? Well, did you get up in the morning? You brush your teeth. So you need to tie in your health, your wellness, in addition to everything out. And as you plan, right? So there are different chapters in the book. One is value proposition. I don't care who you are. You personal value proposition, business value proposition. What's your value proposition in your home? What is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, have you tested? Have you tested these things out, right? What works, what doesn't work with different people, asking different people, getting their input. So really, test marketing is really cool. Taking a look at pitching, learning how to pitch and deliver. Okay, understand if you ever go over 18 minutes on a straight pitch, don't do it. Stay under 20. Always finish early. Make sure that it's compelling. Make sure that you have something that's really going to catch people. Make sure that you can really keep things moving. You can set the stage, tell the story, reveal the inquiry, offer the deal, nail the hook point, and get the offer. I mean, it's just the opportunities are endless in order to sell your ideas. And then selling, having people, process, and strategy, making sure that you can work your people, making sure it could be a family organization, it could be a nonprofit, it could be a corporate organization, it could be an entrepreneurial opportunity. You need to take sure you do your people. In terms of planning, I'm a big one on a one-page strategic plan. People don't want to have the deck of a huge deck and put it on the side. You can do a one-page strategic plan of the key, compelling indices, stuff you want to get done.
Yeah.
What do you want to get done today, this week, next week, for the month, for the quarter, for the year? I go 6 months out. You can dream and have a mission for the 18 months and then have dreams for after. But what are you doing 18 months coming in order to execute to incrementally improve? So that starts with having a plan, personal plan. Make sure you also have a business plan, whatever. Okay, and then you're looking at processes. You're taking in, making sure that you have the appropriate value steps in there, and you can do that. There's cycle time and variation, and there's ways in which you can cut down the amount of steps that you can take in order to do it more leanly and efficiently. I went through the testing out, and then you can get advisors. You need advisors. Why? Because you need to get advice from people. You need to realize your blind spots. What are my blind spots?
Yep.
I lack empathy on a scale of, make sure you take all those different types of tests. I'm an intermetrics analyst myself, but my empathy is way down and I'm blinded to that. And I don't see that. And so surrounding myself with people that do have some empathy and can see is one way where I can say, I can really, because what you're trying to do there is reframe and transform your behavior for incremental improvement.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is to really, at times, get help and find out what your weaknesses are from your people. If you have a team, make sure you all share so everybody knows what's driving you and what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are. So, people may want to know that so they can, as a team, work better. And as a leader, you want to know the strengths and weaknesses of your team. And it's not a real weakness. It's just where you are as a person. So people can not be blinded by their blind spots. Any of that. Getting off that, going down after you get advisors, you need to understand the rules of business. You need the rules of whatever engagement that are going on. And all the politics, they don't teach you that in business school. They don't teach you that in organization. It's like understand, what's going on, all the stuff that's going on in the work environment, what's going on outside, and make sure you understand what the industry rules are. You're going to step over a line, you're going to get whacked, and then I mean, it's just a matter of understanding the rules of the game. It's the same thing as football or baseball or whatever you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have done a lot in your lifetime. What are you doing today? What are you looking for today? Who do you interact with today? If I was going to contact you, what am I getting?
Okay. I mean, fortunately, you contact me in the morning, which is good because my real estate private equity firm is West Coast based. So they're not getting up to 11, 12. So I get up at 4:45 every morning. So I mean the way I look at the day is this, that I spend my time in the morning, whether it's taking through a typical day, exercise or handling, meetings, doing podcasts, doing interviews. I've written 2 books, and I've got a third one at some time will come out, and then in addition to that, I've got the podcast. After that, then it's into do the private equity work, and I'm chief operating officer. It's just something I always wanted to be. I never was one. I went from VP to CEO, and then
Wow.
CEO to founder, right? So I want to do something different. I'd wanted to run the trains just to do something different. But that's me at this point in my life that I can do that. So, but I'm an investor, and also I'm an operator. And so I take on projects there, and that's that. Okay. I'm also a board member. So and I advise people. I generally do set my advising for the morning because I have the time in the morning to advise people on their projects, advise
Mhm.
boards on their projects, have you. Occasionally I will take, I got some quarterly meetings like Custom Legacy Foundation on the nonprofit, Tufts. I've got a bunch of boards that I work there and I advise there. And, and then I go to some different fundraisers that I support and charities that I support. So
Mhm.
and without a doubt, it's also you're trying to mentor people. So I'm
Yeah.
always taking calls from students, always taking calls. I've got kids too, so occasionally they want something every now and then. And
Yeah.
so you got the family situation, and you need to be able to navigate all of
Yeah.
it and organize it well so you're able to get it done. And I
Yeah.
was told once, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. They'll find a way to get it done.
I, it's interesting you said earlier that you don't have empathy, but listening to the chair, which by the way, Charity, I normally do not do podcast interviews on Friday. This is a Friday, and this is why I'm in the hat day, because it's Friday hat day and it's research is key. So our nonprofit gives to pediatric cancer research because that's not funded unless you go through grants. And so that's what we do. So that's why I'm in this hat. But even though you say you don't have empathy, holy crap, everything I'm hearing, you have a heart as big as this globe. So uh, don't let that fool anybody that you say you don't
But
have
I will
empathy.
tell you this, my responsibility indicator
Yeah.
is like 1 or 2. So you can be this way. You can be
Yeah.
responsible and not have empathy. So you're
I
doing it
get it. I get
purposeful.
it. But it's purpose, exact choice, right? We are all at choice
Right.
with what it is that we want to do. And what I love about listening to this is you are a walking example that life is a choice and we make conscious choices based off of what we're expanding. Because you're always expanding. Are you expanding bullshit or are you expanding life for other people? And you're expanding life. And I appreciate your story and the capacity that you have allowed yourself to stretch to. It's like you live in this proverbial just ongoing ease. And it comes with that. What's coming up for me or what I want to ask you. I'm going to ask it in a couple different ways. First way is Dave today goes back and gets to talk to the Dave that's 18, 20 years old, getting ready to start. What advice or what would you say to that Dave, knowing where you are right now?
Well, I mean, if you the Dave now knows the mistakes that the Dave through the years made.
Yeah.
So you would part of that was the reason why I wrote the story and also the books. So you could see some of those mistakes that I made. And and I had more. balls and brains back then, and and perhaps I do now. I don't know, but I know that it can get you in a lot of trouble,
Yeah.
and it got me to come close to bankruptcy, getting a war with a big shipping line, which I shouldn't have done. And I look at some of the mistakes that I've made through the years and say, if I know that I knew then, and I knew my all my profiles, all my strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
And I was fully aware of them, then I think I would have planned around it.
Yeah.
That's the key. The key is that if you can learn that, because if you're 18 and you're 20, you're constantly learning, constantly trying to find out what you don't want to do. And you're trying to always challenge yourself to get, to the next level. I would even then, back there at 22, I was a senior and I wanted to take a class that wasn't offered, and it was Dale Carnegie, public speaking and human
Yeah.
relations. And it was absolutely integral to success going forward. And so I went to it was the chairman of the drama department, and he said, this class is going to make you slick, glib, and insincere, and we're not going to support it. Right. And I said, and the worst thing is it's going to corrupt your soul. And being
Wow.
a my major was political philosophy. It was, will this class corrupt my soul or not? Let's find out. Right. So I said, I'm going to take this class for no credit. I'm going to spend the time. And it was one of the best classes I've ever taught. It was an experiential class. It was taught by a senior vice president of a very large restaurant chain. And it really got me to be able to talk to like you or talk to an audience of 2,000. It didn't matter. And be able to summarize and be succinct and really like talk to like one person. And it also gave you some perspective on how to behave.
Mhm.
Don't criticize, condemn, and complain. Use honest and seek appreciation. Smile, the world smiles with you. Even stuff like that. I mean, that I would probably say that was great. The Stephen Covey stuff was really good. And then I also put some strategic planning and management planning traps that I've run in through the years. And I put that in my book because you want to know before you step into that hole where things are. Okay. And if you can, and from now on at my desk, I put those traps right up there, and the Stephen Covey, the way to behave and all that up there to say, okay, I got a situation. Which trap am I going to fall into if I don't, deal with this correctly?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Power.
everybody can do it. It's listening to people with experience. The most frustrating thing now is not being able to take that chip from your head and put it in your kid's head so they don't make the same mistake.
Mhm.
And they've got to run into a wall to know it's there.
Yeah. Do
Not
you
all the
feel
time.
that? Oh, I was going to ask you that. Do you feel that sometimes people do have to have those moments where, whether it's running into a wall, falling and skinning their knees, do you feel that those are impactful in learning?
Yeah, I mean, of course they are. They can. It's something that you definitely learn.
Yeah.
And you don't, I'd say you don't have to. If you can find a way to take advice and quote
Yeah.
advice and not make a major mistake, I'm for that. But
Yeah.
some people just need to run into that wall to know that it's there,
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
mistake is there, and I'll never make that mistake again. And it's just, you know, that's
What mentors do you have you put in your life? Like if you look back and you go, these are the key relationships that made the biggest difference for me. Who were those?
yeah. I mean, I've had. first of all, the reading and the books that I've done. I want to go there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Sure.
I would say the best books that I've read, believe it or not, was D.A. Benton, How to Think and Act Like a CEO. That was fabulous because it gave you an outline how you needed to do in order to run, lead, and champion. I just think that was just a great book. The Dale Carnegie books are great. The Stephen Covey books are great. The Tom Peters book I mentioned, he's great. But there are other books. I take a look at my books that quote in that way.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer that history repeats itself. So believe it or not, in the last whatever it is, 5, 8 years, I've read every single book of Bill O'Reilly. You know what I mean? And it goes
Yeah.
from England all the way to present day. And I find those they're just tremendous because they don't
Yeah.
teach history and you need to learn history. So, that's just on general knowledge. I've had mentors in my life, in the corporate life that I've had, and they've been wonderful. And I am very, very graciously appreciative to football coaches. I was very fortunate in addition to my parents that were absolutely wonderful. And my mother went to Harvard Business School, um, working 7 jobs at Radcliffe 10 years before women were allowed into Harvard Business School.
It's
You know,
amazing. Yeah.
and my dad was in Patton's Army, and his unit he would never take credit for won the won presidential unit citation for heroism, and he captured 200 German officers, and he went through all sorts of hell. And I had a football coach that was down in Iwo Jima, and he was the oldest football coach ever in America. He was the head coach until he was 87, and then he just died like a
Wow.
year or two ago, Bill Ty. And then, in addition to that, I had Dwayne Ford, Vic Gatto, my college, football coaches were just absolutely awesome. And I had the great honor and pleasure to work for H.W. Bush. And, there's another fighter pilot that fought in World War II.
Yeah.
He could have gotten captured. And so, what just a
Yeah.
humble, bright guy. And there's another guy, Andrew Natsios, who ended up being head of Agency for International Development. And he was the ambassador to Darfur. So, and I worked for him I was pounding on doors in the State House, and he was kind enough to hire me when no one would hire me. And it was just, I've got the most respect for him. And so, all those things, that stuff, all that
Yeah.
leadership you can learn, whether it's from mentors or reading or what have you, like all of a sudden, it's 20, 25 years later, and I'm negotiating with Fidel Castro. And if it
Amazing.
wasn't for the experiences that I had from Andy Card, who was president's chief of staff, and also Andrew Natsios and H.W. Bush, and the football experiences, and then the political experiences and all that. If it wasn't that kind of experiences, then we
Yeah.
wouldn't be where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the sayings that I often say to my clients or people that I'm interacting with is there are no mistakes, there are only opportunities. And you are a living example of that mindset. It is about surrounding ourselves with greatness. Whatever we surround ourselves with expands, period. It really is that simple. So I
I
want,
wanted
yeah, go
to,
ahead.
if I could just interject one thing on that.
Yeah.
When I was operating business and we grew, from 10 million to 102 million, and I had a board that Fortune 5 company, 100 companies would dream of. And it was like Tony DeLeo who was with ADM and National Starch, top guy. Dave Gorman of Walmart, he was a senior guy that taught Sam Walton how to use the cell phone. I mean,
Wow.
and I mean, it was just these great guys. Well, I mean
Yeah.
that were just better than me. It was Mark Schuster and George Santos and John Hampton. In every single area of our business, we had someone that could do it better and was brighter than me.
Yeah.
And they
Absolutely.
just
I
loved getting together and all the ideation and the creation and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And you get to just hold the space, right? And watch them all be successful. So cool. So cool. All right. So I have an activity that I do with every guest that I have and get to speak with. And we use these Be With Word cards. And I'm going to go in and I am going to just randomly pick a word, whatever the word is. So we opened with interesting. You got to pick that word. So now we're going to let the universe give us a word. And, ooh, okay. How appropriate is this? You get the word flow. How does the
Flow.
word
Okay.
flow show up for you? Speak to us, Dave.
No, I think things are, they need to flow. And if things can flow in your life and you can make things interesting for people, then they will stay engaged and
Mhm.
you'll have a much greater opportunity to sell your personal value proposition on whatever you're doing, whether it's with the company, whether or not it's personal, whether or not it's family, whether or not it's an entrepreneurial venture. So flowing really ties into excitement.
That's it. That's it. You just flow with it, right? So, Dave, thank you so much for being here. This has been probably the fastest 20 minutes, 20-ish minutes, whatever, in a long time. You are truly fascinating. You are here changing the planet. You have changed the planet. And I appreciate you so much being here and spending this time with me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. You're awfully kind to have me on.
Thank you.